Hey folks, we have a solar eclipse on September 21st. It's in Virgo in the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni, which grants peace through strength and cooperation. Today I'm going to be talking about that, and we see the themes of self-doubt rising as it's coming at the end of the Leo eclipse. The collective willpower is being evoked because it's also coming after the recent lunar eclipse in Aquarius. We see the global response to things like the recent public assassination of influencer Charlie Kirk, questioning our beliefs with that Jupiter still in Gemini, and also to simplify our life with the Virgo principle. So these are the things I'm going to be talking about today in this up. As always, if you like what you see, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. And I'm also going to be outlining strategies to benefit and flourish during this time. So there's a lot ahead. Let's just dive in. Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra is the very beginning of Virgo, and it's where Leo becomes Virgo. So we just had the sun in Leo for the previous month, and including the recent lunar eclipse that was in Aquarius. During that whole time, the sun was in Leo. It just now went into Virgo, and as you can see, Ketu, the south node, is still in Leo. So there's a Leo-Virgo nature here. So again, this is why it's very important to focus on this nakshatra, because the nakshatras bridge the zodiac signs, right? Of course, in Vedic astrology, the zodiac is sidereal, based on the constellations, or I shouldn't say constellations, but based on the stellar portions. That starts with Ashwini and Aries. This is in every Vedic astrology text. No debate ever, really. And so what this means is that when you start the zodiac at Aries and Ashwini, then by the time you get here to this section of the sky, then you have Leo becoming Virgo, and the nakshatra bridges those two signs. And again, this is a very powerful feature of Vedic astrology, because at the points where you don't have a nakshatra, for example, the end of Cancer and the beginning of Leo, the end of Scorpio, the beginning of Sagittarius, the end of Pisces and the beginning of Aries, it's what's called Gandanta, which means loosening the knot. So what that means is that the nakshatras that bridge the two zodiac signs are like a knot. It's a continuity from one sign to the next. And most of the signs have this continuity. And from Leo to Virgo, the continuity is established through the qualities of Uttara Phalguni, which means it's ruled by the god Ahriman, who is the god of contracts and making our desires and our joys in life official through contracts, agreements, and things that benefit, cooperation and common ground. Whereas the previous nakshatra, Purva Phalguni, is about desire, happiness. The real analogy here is that Purva Phalguni is called the star of courtship, right, and desire and happiness, and Uttara Phalguni is like the star of marriage, where instead of just dating, you then make it official. So it's about contracts, official agreements, which are also based on, a cooperation. And often the god Ahriman is paired with the god Mitra, which means friendship and friendliness. So this is a big theme of this eclipse, which means that to have a good agreement and a good contract, a smart person will not want to take advantage of another person. That's not a good agreement. Like, for example, I wouldn't sell you a reading or sell you a course or sell you something if I didn't make it so that you felt good about the transaction. I wouldn't want to take, $1 million for one thing, because then you're going to not feel good about it. So there's no good agreement if one person is taking advantage of another. And that's where the god Mitra comes in. So again, these are very deep concepts, because again, Leo is about the power of the kingdom, which again, we're seeing a lot of focus on government and all kinds of things right now. Go back and watch the previous video that I did on the lunar eclipse in Aquarius. But that kingdom is irrelevant if we don't pay attention to the details and we don't organize things. So again, this is also a big theme right now with this eclipse, because there can be a big focus on all the power we have in trying to push and throw our power around. But What if we're not taking care of our kingdom? What if we're not managing our kingdom very well? That's the nature of Virgo, right? And the opposite sign of Leo, which is where the sun was a sign of Aquarius, which is all the people in the kingdom. So again, these are the two places where the kingdom can get a bit shaky. Are you just dominating the people? And what are the people saying in response? And also, if you're not listening and running a good kingdom, it's because you're not delegating tasks and you're not organizing all that energy and you're not making effective agreements, which is the nature of Virgo, and especially the nakshatra Uttara Phalguni, which begins that transition from Leo to Virgo. And then the next nakshatra in Virgo, Hasta, is where we literally codify and make things solid, right? So this is a big theme right now with this entire eclipse and new moon, is this quality of Leo becoming Virgo, because we have Ketu in Leo and the sun and moon and Mercury in Virgo. This new moon coincides with the Navaratri celebration, the 9 nights of the Divine Mother, which also begins at that time. And during this time, it's when we introspect, change, and transform. And it's a time to look at our life and get our habits, routines in order so that we can make real transformation and transform our own kingdom, right? Not just the kingdom of the world, but our own inner world. So again, this is why this Navaratri begins on the new moon in Virgo, because again, Virgo is where we first have to introspect and look at our habits, routines. This is why the first 3 nights of the Divine Mother are related to Goddess Durga, where we destroy all of our bad habits. Then the middle 3 nights are where we bring beauty, love, and joy and happiness into our life after we've purified and gotten our habits and routines in order. Then the last 3, after we bring love and joy, are related to Goddess Saraswati, is where we bring knowledge into our life. So I'll talk more about the Divine Mother later, but it should be very much understood that this is an important new moon every year. The new moon that happens in Virgo is the beginning of the Divine Mother Festival. And there's many ways to even understand this relative to things like the Kanya Kumari worship. Kanya is literally the Sanskrit name for Virgo, right? So many times in the Divine Mother Festival, they worship the Divine Mother in the form of a young girl, Kanya, which is the name of Virgo. That is the symbol of Virgo, is a young woman, or I should say a young girl, premenstrual girl, so to speak, when their energy is pure and they're the most visceral embodiment of the Divine Mother. And that's a big reason why, as you see at the top, it says New World Shakti Awakening, because we're kind of in a new world right now. It feels like a new paradigm since we've had the upheavals that recently occurred after the last lunar eclipse in Aquarius. We had the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, and then as soon as the moon went into Aries, we had this very public assassination of a public figure who was beloved on the right wing here in America, and it's triggered even, people marching in the UK and in Asia, I think South Korea, a lot of places, and it's been a response to a perceived lack of free speech and other kinds of things of what people think Charlie Kirk, the individual, represented. And so it was a very shocking thing to see, and people have been speaking out against that. What it's also done is brought out many issues that we have to look at. Among them is really the choices that we make as a culture. And again, in America, for example, we have one side, which is the right, and the left. And from my perspective, I see these issues being framed incorrectly and falsely, pitting right against left, when actually it's a time, hopefully, for us to rally around those who want peace and want to try to come together, which includes sensible things like perhaps trying to dial back incendiary rhetoric, let's say on both sides. Also, things like sensible gun legislation. One of the things I noticed right away, those on the left in America came out and denounced the gun violence and said, okay, let's pass some gun legislation. Those on the right accused the left again, and by the way, the left has accused the right before. This goes both ways. But they accuse the left, and again, we don't even bridge or approach the subject of gun legislation anymore, because it's like, when I talked to a few of my friends about this, they were like, well, there's no way we could ever get guns off the street. You can't get guns. You can't get rid of guns. There's already so many guns. But Charlie Kirk, this young man would still be alive if we had sensible gun laws. Let's make no mistake about it. And as much as we want to say guns don't kill people, people kill people. Yeah, people who are 200 yards away with a high-powered scope killed him. Now, yes, of course, sometimes people stick a knife in another person or whatever, but in America, we've already had hundreds of mass shootings this year. Now, again, this is one person who was shot publicly, but it could have very well just been someone else who just wanted to start shooting all the people in the crowd, and it could have been 10, 15, 20 people killed. Who knows? So again, it happened to be this person, but from my perspective, the real turning point, because you're hearing all these things about Turning Point, he had an organization called Turning Point USA. To me, it's just as viable to say that we're at a turning point where we can realize that both sides, right, left, and for me, a lot of it is a false choice, have been dialing up the rhetoric so high, and we need to bring the rhetoric down and maybe look at solutions, again, like addressing guns. And again, to say you can't do it, many countries have done it. Australia did it. We could do it. We could do something. We could even have the conversation. We're not even having the conversation. Instead, it's still amped up and the rhetoric is high. So this is the sort of contentiousness that I talked about in the last eclipse with that Rahu in Aquarius, polarizing things that are going to bring people together around an issue. So far, we see people are being brought together around the issue of this assassination, and we have two competing sides as to what to do about it. There's one side that says, okay, well, let's come together and do this. Another side says, well, let's come together and say this and do that. So again, astrology is very interesting in this regard, and I'm trying to be neutral about it. I did say my view is I'm against all violence, assassination, and guns, and have been for 40 years. Regardless of what I thought of Charlie Kirk's views, I wish he would have been around to say it for another 50 years, as far as I'm concerned. It's terrible that anybody gets shot with guns, but he's not the only one. We've had thousands and thousands of people die in mass shootings this year, not to mention handguns everywhere and whatnot, and we're the only country doing this. I want to also talk real quick about this course that I put together since we're in the midst of this eclipse season, and you can see how powerful these eclipses are. Look at how everything has changed around these very themes that I talked about a couple weeks ago. And at rahuketusecrets.com, you can get a course I put together on the astrology houses and how everything else in our life is moving forward. We're moving from our money to our interests, to how we feel about them, to what we create with them, to the hard work we can put into them, to sharing them with others. That's houses 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in our life. But then Rahu and Ketu, as the nodes move backwards through the sky, those lessons unwind. So as you can see here, I have this overview of the class and the planetary motion, which goes around from, again, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, except the nodes, which go from Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, now Aquarius. It's been unwinding your karma relative to where the lunar nodes have been moving the last few years. So if you want more information on that, just go to rahuketusecrets.com and check that out. It's a great class. And as you can see, I have that scrolling at the bottom of the screen there. I was supposed to turn that on before I started this, but you can see rahuketusecrets.com, and you can just register. The class is almost done, but you can get it early as soon as it's released at a discount. So check that out as well. So anytime we have a solar eclipse, there's a self-doubt, self like your worldly self, trying to deepen or to access your deeper self as the Atman. So notice that, and notice how that is leading to a collective willpower where you're now looking at, okay, where's my place in whatever this world is becoming now? Am I willing to show up and meet this sort of global response? What is my response to how everything changes? How do I feel about that? And we're questioning our beliefs as well, like I've been talking about for several months with Jupiter going through Gemini. What do I believe about all this stuff? And, you know, are the typical answers that I'm being fed, are they the ones I should just sort of take at face value? Or what's our way out of whatever is happening socially? Should I just accept all these messages of propaganda? Why aren't I questioning the very, mechanisms, including those on social media? Where's all these extreme voices coming from? Who are the extremists now coming at me saying, no, fight, fight, fight? It's those guys, those guys, those guys. Who's pointing all the fingers? And again, think carefully. Is it really both sides? Is it really both sides who are saying, okay, war, 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 your fault, your fault, your fault? Maybe you think it is. Question this and see, are there other solutions possible? Like, again, for example, maybe things like everybody needs to turn it down. Who's offering to want to turn everything down and who's offering to ratchet up? And again, the possibility that, hey, maybe America can join the rest of the world and get rid of some of these guns and these weapons of war and high-powered scopes. By the way, the gun that was used it's called a 30-06, which is it's not an automatic rifle. It's a powerful gun, but it had a powerful scope on it. If you just had a 30-06 and you were looking, you wouldn't be able to do it. But because it had the powerful scope, he was able to be, a couple hundred yards away. So again, and it's a time to actually use your, brain and your intelligence and your intellect, which are the qualities of Virgo, and methodically think about these things, question these things, and introspect. That's the nature of Virgo, the internal reflective quality of Mercury, and really ponder what's going on. And that leads to the final strategies, which are very similar, but refine your commitments. Look at the things that you're committed to and where your energy is going out into, even things like your, again, social media. How committed are you, energetically? Because again, this is Leo becoming Virgo, because Virgo is where our lack of discrimination with our energy can lead to health problems and issues. That's a big quality of Virgo, is a kind of weak constitution. The constitution is Leo, and if we don't manage our habits and routines and purify our daily life, which is the next strategy, purify, pay attention to diet, exercise, energy, prana. And that includes, again, are you spinning out on narratives, or are you doing your meditation, your devotion, your breath, all of these things? Again, it says serve a cause, even if you're not out there, crusading. It doesn't have to be that kind of a thing, but just know what's the higher meaning and the purpose and the sense of service that you have. Again, this is the first path of yoga called Karma Yoga. And as it says, invoke Shakti, which is the goddess energy. The goddess energy is now trying to take you to a higher plane of consciousness, but it's a matter of whether or not you're ready. Are you ready to be transformed? Everyone says they want to change and transform, and yet all I see is mostly people want confirmation bias. Most people aren't being really convinced of much of anything these days, particularly when we have online arguments or debates. Nothing's going to change. You have to change, and this is a great time to do it. Forget hearing everyone else, except for me, of course. Listen to what I'm saying. Introspect, connect to breath, question, especially that which you don't really understand. And I'll do another video here about the Divine Mother energy, so you want to look for that. And then also, again, just like, share, subscribe, and I really appreciate it. You have a great eclipse and a great week.
Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know, as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really help. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos.